Alright, so good morning everyone. Welcome to the webinar. My name is Muhammad Faqihn, and I am the writer of Ejen Season 1, Season 2 and movie. Currently working under Astro Special Features. At suggest this is a step-by-step workshop on screenwriting lah in Malaysia. So what we'll be learning today is an overview of the screenwriting process. So very macam on the surface touch lah, macam mana pipeline process industri Malaysia ni macam mana bila tulis skrip. But the bulk of today's lesson will be more about how to write your own story, followed by Q&A session and exercises. There will be exercises in this class. Lastly, homework. So kita ada homework. So screenwriting pipeline for commercial films in Malaysia. We're about to start. This is an overview of the writing pipeline in Malaysia lah. Step 1 in the writing process is ideation and pitching movies, loglines and USP. So yes, logline tu is basically a 1 to 3 sentence summary of your movie lah. And for live action and even Hollywood lah, this is super important because this will tell your producers or investors what your movie is really about. So once the logline has been approved, that's when they will bagi kita timeline to write the script. Just the script for 5 to 8 months. 8 months too is very generous. Usually it's just 5 to 6 months lah. So dah approve, and we will go to writing the outline lah. So logline dah approve, deadline dah dapat. So we will write the outline. The outline tu maksudnya for those of you who are familiar with script format, dia tulis summary je. So once we write the outline for 2 to 3 months, then we will get the approval from the superiors lah. By superiors, I mean anybody whose name and money is on the line. So most of the time it's 90 pages. And at the same time, why it's 90 pages is because diorang nak, because the nature of animation is very expensive, and diorang nak pulangan modal. So what they do is they make sure that the film is 90 minutes supaya that they can be replayed in cinema as much as they can in one day. Oh, by the way, 90 pages means 90 minutes in film. 1 page is estimated to be 1 minute of film time. 120 pages is for live action. Notes of the editing, notes of the characters, what they look like, where they are at. Semua in the first draft. For live action, they will ask the practical stuff, the logistics. Dia akan tanya benda like boleh shoot ke tak ni? Ada budget ke tak? Pelakon tu nak ke tak buat scene ni kan, benda-benda macam tu lah. Very practical logistic stuff. For animation, it's more about location tu kat mana, what it will look like, character tu siapa, what he will look like. And for animation, most of the time, my experiences in WOW is asking how does this story affect the audience lah, a lot of times. So we write accordingly. Bila dapat feedback tu, scene apa tak best, scene apa best, siapa karakter mana nak buang, nak tambah, all those details kita kena rewrite lah, kena tukar lah. And more feedback and rewrite. So those process of writing, feedback, rewrite, feedback, dia akan ulang sampailah deadline. So writing process in animated show series. First of all, in animation, first things first, dia punya show concept dah ada lah. Dia punya show concept, dia punya character bible. Character bible tu maksudnya macam details of who the characters are, likes and dislikes, desires and weakness. Character concept mesti ada, background, location, story summaries, semua dah ada. So animation benda ni akan ada dulu. So in my experience with Ejen Ali, kita masuk-masuknya dah ada. Semua benda ni dah figure out dah. So the purpose kenapa animation buat ni dulu, selalunya nak dapatkan funding lah. To discover whether or not this concept can be a full series or a feature or just an animated short to hantar to festival. So faham kalau live action kita kena buat outline dulu baru nak approve. Kalau dalam animation dia dah approve dulu baru kita bawa line, you know. So it's a different process, it's different kind of business model and mentality and different kind of people lah. The deadline very, at least in my experience, is 8 months to 1 year of production. Tapi itu untuk semua. Itu untuk writing, storyboard, animating, compositing, rendering, lighting, compositing, blocking, semua dalam masa 1 tahun. So you can imagine dia punya pipeline dia lagi ketat lah, tak banyak macam live action. Live action 5-6 bulan tulis skrip je, and then nak siapkan filem tu kena dalam masa sebulan lah. So just like the live action, kita akan write and finalize lah according to feedback. But we will mainly focus on pilot episode dulu, because pilot episode is where that's where you really try to sell your show. So writing and rewriting of the rest of the series lah. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. So what's the difference between live action and animation? In my experience, like I said tadi, in animation, kita dah tahu dah story kita pasal apa. In one form or the other, dia akan beritahu, director akan beritahu, karakter dia macam ni, dia nak episode dia macam ni. So, you know, animation, kita dah tahu dah location dia apa kan, asset dia apa kita ada. So kita as writers, we know early on. For live action pula, in my experience so far, it's always the logistics. Is this scene doable? Is this scene ada budget ke tak? And the tricky part is you will get this opinion from your assistant directors and your producers, and they will all have different experiences and solutions. So bear in mind, this is just my experience, and they're definitely not definitive, because the industry itself is always changing. So animation boleh change, obviously, alhamdulillah, with the success of those 3 movies last year. Live action pun, Astro is a very big place. So the first step in writing your story, the objective of this story session here is to start to make us think about how to solve story problems, and that will be the bulk of your career. And paling penting sekali for everyone here is to figure out what kind of story that you want to tell. Now, just a disclaimer, some filmmakers, diorang tak start dengan character, diorang start with his backstory. That's basically it. You know, I keep using these very random terms, tapi sebenarnya for in generally, this is basically origin story or backstory. Siapa villain dia? Kan, kalau soalan paling senangnya, especially for commercial films, siapa villain dia? Is the world share the same belief? Dia ada kawan tak? Kawan dia buat apa dalam dunia ni? So the second thing that you should figure out with your story is the conflict lah. And like I said, so you dah figure out the character wound or belief. You dah figure out the villain or the antagonist. Forces of antagonism lah. That's a more, if you want to impress your superiors, kata, what are the forces of antagonism? So that's a fancier word that you can use. That basically means besides the villain, siapa lagi object or scene apa yang who is against the hero. And then transformation. Wound heal. Does he get what he wants, you know? So in other words, what does your character learn lah? There's a simpler term for it. It's just what does he or she learns. And for those of you who are more interested with darker stories, what did your character lost? So I think that's all for today. Okay, so day 2, breaking down movies. So everyone ready? So breaking down movies ni, what I mean by breaking down movies is to really take the movie that you want to break down and look at it really scene by scene, act by act, almost second by second, if you will, until if you don't break down movies, if you think that you tengok je and then you rasa you dah tahu movie tu, you will always have an audience perspective. Maksudnya you will be passive, you will just consume. The objective here is how to start thinking to solve story problems, act more active. Just disclaimer, it will ruin your experiences watching movie a bit because you will always start to question things. But hey, if you are serious about being in the street, that's part of the job lah. And don't worry, you will be able to turn it off as you watch a movie lah. When I say breaking down movies tu, maksudnya you have to write down notes as you watch the movie. Bukan just tengok je. Like tengok, pause, tulis notes. Play, pause, tulis notes. That's what I mean by breaking down movies. 7x structure is basically 3x structure. It's basically 3x structure tapi lagi detail. So like the Iron Man example I give you is very brief kan. Tapi if you really go into the movie, ada banyak gila detail, ada banyak gila pasal Pepper Potts punya plotline, pasal dia punya father plotline. So it's very detailed. So 7x structure is basically going deeper into 3x structure. So that's what we're going to learn today. So the first plot point in the 7x structure is the backstory, aka introduction, aka wound or belief. So backstory is where you show who your characters are. The next one is catalyst, inciting incident. So the inciting incident is so the best way to understand the inciting incident is when we as an audience understand who this character is in the backstory. We establish their goals and desires semua tu, and then something very bad comes into their life, something that really challenges them. That's an inciting incident. It's something or someone that comes into the story that really challenges the backstory that we established earlier. So the next one is big event. So kita dah tahu siapa karakter kita, and then we see him or her being challenged by this thing that's really challenging their life, by thing or someone, and then something big happens. It accumulates into something very big. And the reason kenapa the movie had so much screen time for this scene is because this is the big event. This is to show to the audience that, okay, this is the big event that's really changing and pushing our characters to the limit. So midpoint. Now midpoint is basically the part of the story where we as the creators, as the writers, basically macam play God. Maksudnya we determine what the midpoint is. Maybe you've noticed that from backstory to catalyst to big event, everything sounds like it happens naturally, betul tak? But midpoint is part of the story where we put more obstacles for our characters. We put more goals, more plot points into the story at the midpoint. The next one is crisis. So crisis ni, just like what we're going through right now with the pandemic, it's a point of the story where the character has to choose lah. Something serious is happening, and the character has to choose one over the other, or the character has to respond to this crisis. And this crisis usually reflects a lot about the theme of the story and reflects a lot from the backstory, from the big event. And the crisis is not just something external, like facing a villain, but also something internal. Do you choose to be person A? Do you choose to be person B? That's a crisis. So crisis, a keyword that you can really focus on is choosing lah. Choosing a situation that really forces the characters to choose. And then climax. So climax is something that the implication, like the consequences of the character decision made. And of course, resolution. Resolution is, like I said yesterday, transformation. It's either, if it's a tragedy, then what did they lose? And if it's transformation, then what did they gain? How did they change? And what did they learn? Well, if they did not change, why did they not change? So it's the transformation lah, the resolution. Okay, so this is a general format of script lah. It's pretty common lah. Live action guna, animation guna. So it's basically scene heading. If you Google, memang semua orang guna. And if you learn university pun dia akan ajar benda sama, tak ada beza pun. And then You can, for those of you who are interested to learn more about what I'm doing now, my next project and personal stuff, you can follow me on Instagram, Graduate Faqihn. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for today's session.